sex is not just about sex. Sex is about kind of everything else, and everything else is kind of about sex. So that's how we're going to be approaching it. Welcome to Ask a Sex Therapist. This is the trailer where I tell you a little bit more about what the show is going to be like. So who is this show for? This show is for everyone who's ever worried that something's wrong with them sexually, that they're not exciting enough, or they're into stuff that's too weird, or they're going against the grain and exploring kink and BDSM, or they're exploring non-monogamy, or they're part of the LGBTQ community. This show is especially for those people who have some element that makes sex a little bit more challenging for them, or some aspect of them, is sexually diverse. This show is for anyone who wants to get rid of shame and stigma around their sexual identity or their sexual expression. The show is going to celebrate diversity and celebrate differences, which we're not necessarily seeing in the wider culture, because in my opinion, it would be boring AF if we were all the same. So this is not a one-size-fits-all sexuality where I tell you this is what you should be like. This is for people of all shapes, sizes, abilities, disabilities, races, religions, ages, sexual orientations, gender identities, relationship structures. It's for vanilla folks. It's for kinky folks. It's for sex workers. It's also for those of us who have judgment around sex or sexuality that we kind of know is there and we want to get rid of it. Maybe we have some messages we got from growing up and we kind of want to be more progressive or more authentic, or we just know that that doesn't feel right for us anymore. So it can be sort of a sexual evolution, if you will. The idea of Ask a Sex Therapist is that it's approachable. You can ask any sincere question here. This show is for all of us. And I want people to know you're okay. You might have some sexual healing to do. You might have some work to do on your communication around sex, but I want people to know that you're basically okay. So while we're celebrating, differences and diversity, this is not a show about being woke. This is not a show about cancel culture, but about, respecting each other's autonomy and personhood and learning from people who are different than us. So we're going to challenge ourselves a little bit in a fun and healthy way. I promise I'll try and make it fun for you guys. We were all handed so many different beliefs though, by school, by government, by religion, by our family. And I kind of want you to start getting curious. When we strip all that away, what is actually left? Like, how much of our sex life is something that was almost handed to us? This is how you should feel about your body. These are the sex acts that are okay to do. This is when you're allowed to have sex. This is who you're allowed to have sex with. And what if we start stripping all of that away? So what are you going to get when you tune in? I'm going to help you let go of any kind of shame or stigma, embrace your bodies, access, identify, communicate your real desires with your partners. We're going to talk about difficult emotions that come up around sex and navigating consent and communication, whether it's a new partner or a long-term partner, right? Like, how do we establish safety? How do we make sure our partner is enthusiastic? Low libido is another one. So we're going to talk about that, low libido and sex drive, and how do we kind of not only create attraction and chemistry in our relationships, but learn how to manage, how high or low our sex drive is and what are the factors affecting that. We're going to get into anatomy. One of my early episodes is going to be all about the clitoris. I'm super excited about that. And I'm also aiming to help close the orgasm gap. So some of you might already know, but heterosexual men are having a lot more orgasms than heterosexual women, while lesbian women are having a lot more orgasms than straight women as well. So we're going to get curious about that. I'm going to offer some ideas and theories and solutions, and I'm going to be excited to hear from you guys. I love hearing from people. I love knowing what resonates with you. So again, this is a show that's going to be approachable. What to expect with the podcast though. So you can expect expect a few handfuls of episodes these first couple weeks so that you can start binging episodes right away. And then you can expect a weekly episode on a consistent basis after that. For the first 15 episodes, it's just going to be me, and you're going to get to know me pretty well. And we're going to talk about a lot of the foundational elements of not just sex specifically, but communicating in your relationship, self-care, and emotions, because the way that I look at it is very holistic. And it's like sex is not just about sex. Sex is about kind of everything else. And everything else is kind of about sex. So that's how we're going to be approaching it. And you'll learn some of the things that I've learned as a mental health counselor and a certified sex therapist. And then after episode 15, we're going to have some badass guests coming in, probably every other episode, something like that will join me for a chat, and they will share with us what their expertise is, because I'm going to be learning alongside you guys. So I want to be clear that while I do have a bunch of training, I think sex is a lifelong journey, and I'm just along for the ride too. So a little bit more about me and just my background. So I am an ASECT certified sex therapist. And what that means is that I went through a year-long sexual health certificate program at University of Michigan, where I studied sex education and sex therapy. And then I also did 18 months and over 300 client hours of supervised sex therapy work. So I got over 50 hours of supervision during that time. And then a lengthy application, which I'm sure you can imagine. And all that is on top of having a master's degree in counseling and being a therapist in private practice since 2011. And so as I hinted at, I'm also very holistic. So I did a holistic health coach training all the way back in 2010, 2011. I am an internal family systems therapist, which I consider to be a form of energy healing and really great at accessing the unconscious. And I also became a Shambhala meditation guide while I was a practitioner there, and taught meditation to beginners for a while. While I want you to have that reassurance that I do have legitimate training in this field, I also want you to know that I don't think that's where I've gained the most knowledge or expertise. I think that academia is a little bit more like theoretical. It's not always what helps people with like the most common sex issues, right? So I think my lived experience, I think my personal exploration and seeking out of knowledge, and then I think my experience working with clients are the things that have truly helped me to become a good clinician and coach for people. So why does this podcast exist? I hinted at this at the beginning as well, but it's here to help you remove shame and stigma and become more conscious relationship partners. So this is about you becoming more you. So I hope that you'll join me for some more episodes.